Did you know that conventional agricultural practices not only deplete the soil, but also increasingly trap farmers in an unsustainable system? Indeed, this reality needs to change and fast. The solution? A revolution gaining momentum on farms worldwide. Regenerative agriculture. It might sound complicated, but it's actually simple and transformative. Imagine restoring your land, increasing productivity, and on top of that, contributing to the planet's health. Sounds too good to be true? Keep watching this video, and you'll discover how regeneration might be the path you've been searching for. Have you ever heard of a way of farming that not only keeps the soil alive, but makes it flourish again? Regenerative agriculture is exactly that, a call to action to go beyond sustainability. Rather than merely conserving, it aims to restore what has been lost, whether it's soil fertility or surrounding biodiversity. Imagine transforming a dry, unproductive land into a vibrant, thriving oasis. It's like bringing life back to the heart of the earth. The need for this revolution goes beyond the obvious. Today, we face soils so degraded they resemble sand more than soil. Add to this the chaos of climate change and the loss of species essential to environmental balance. It's no exaggeration to say that regenerative agriculture is an urgent response, a game changer for the future. After all, who wouldn't want to secure healthy food while also caring for the planet? And what about its impacts on farms? Have you ever imagined walking through a property that 5 years ago was deemed unviable? Now it supports healthy crops, lush trees, and even a spring that has started flowing again. This kind of transformation isn't a miracle, but the result of regenerative practices that bring life back to the soil and health to the ecosystem. It's as if every grain of soil regains its original purpose. A practical example is the use of crop rotation and soil cover. A small farmer might plant legumes between harvests to enrich the soil without the need for harsh chemicals. The result? Rich soils, abundant crops, and a sustainable cycle. Regenerative agriculture isn't just a beautiful idea. It's a set of concrete actions that anyone can implement, whether in a small garden or on a large farm. What's most fascinating about all this is that the concept isn't new. In fact, it revives ancient practices adapted for the modern world. Looking to the future, it's impossible to ignore that regenerating the soil also means regenerating our connection with nature. At this point, practical tips for those wanting to regenerate their farms stand out as an essential guide. If you want to transform your farm into a living example of regenerative agriculture, the first step is to embrace natural practices. Replace chemical fertilizers with organic amendments and say goodbye to pesticides by adopting biological control. Imagine using ladybugs to combat pests or applying compost to enrich the soil. These small adjustments make a huge difference for both the land and your wallet. Taking care of the soil is essential. It's like the foundation of a house. If it's not solid, nothing else holds up. Techniques such as composting, cover cropping, and no-till farming are powerful allies. For instance, you can plant oats or lupins in resting areas to prevent erosion and enrich the soil with nutrients. The healthier the soil, the more productive your harvest will be. Biodiversity is another key component. Crop consortia, like corn and beans planted together, not only maximize space, but also help create a more balanced environment. Want to go further? Try creating a small agroforest, combining fruit trees with vegetables. It's a practical way to mimic nature, which always finds balance in diversity. We can't forget water, that precious resource. Rainwater harvesting and erosion prevention are fundamental actions. Systems like swales, strategically placed ditches that capture and infiltrate water into the soil, can transform dry areas into fertile lands. Add well-designed terraces to the mix, and your farm will withstand even the severest droughts. These tips, though simple, form the foundation of an efficient regenerative system. It's as if each practice were a piece of a larger puzzle. By applying them, you'll start to see that regeneration goes beyond the soil. it extends to the surrounding ecosystems. And that's what we'll explore next, diving into ecosystem recovery. When we think of regeneration, restoring the water cycle emerges as one of the first tasks. Imagine springs flowing again on lands where there were once only cracks. Restoring natural drainage areas, revitalizing rivers, and protecting their banks are simple actions with massive impact. A farmer could, for example, plant native trees along streams, creating a microclimate and stabilizing the water flow. Another fascinating aspect is carbon sequestration. Have you ever thought that planting trees and perennial crops could literally help clean the air? Besides providing shade and fruit, they capture carbon from the atmosphere and store it in the soil, helping to mitigate climate change. It's like turning your farm into a small ally in the fight against global warming. Life in the soil is the heart of a productive ecosystem. Fungi, bacteria, and worms work tirelessly to create a fertile environment. Introducing biofertilizers, or even simply returning organic matter to the soil can revitalize this invisible yet essential life. Healthy soil is like a community. When every part plays its role, the whole thrives. And the benefits don't stop there. Reintegrating native species into the environment helps balance pests and pollinate crops. One example, attracting bees and birds to your fields. Planting flowers along the edges of crops is a strategy that not only beautifies the landscape, but also brings ecological balance, making your farm more resilient. Recovering ecosystems goes beyond agricultural production. It's an act of reconnecting with the land. As the soil, water, and living beings regenerate, something greater begins to happen. A cycle of abundance is created. And in this context, designing regenerative systems tailored to each property's unique characteristics becomes crucial. Creating a regenerative design is like drawing a map that guides your farm toward prosperity. The first step is an initial diagnosis. Walking around the property, observing degraded areas, water flows, and sunlight patterns can reveal a lot. Imagine a farmer identifying the most eroded soil near the corral and deciding to turn that space into a composting site. It's a simple yet powerful action. The integration of productive zones is the heart of good design. Orchards, gardens, and pastures can coexist harmoniously with the natural environment. A practical example is planting gardens near the house for easy management, while more distant areas are allocated for forests and regenerative pastures. This way, you create an efficient and diverse system where nothing goes to waste. Multifunctional systems are the secret to optimizing resources. Consider planting red oaks, which provide high-quality timber, while their acorns feed local wildlife. Trees like maple can offer not only timber, but also maple syrup production. And how about incorporating blueberries into an agroforestry border? Besides attracting pollinators, they produce a high-value commercial fruit. Regenerative design is dynamic, adapting to the needs and changes of the property. It not only increases productivity, but also builds resilience. By implementing these systems, you'll notice that the benefits extend beyond soil and production. They bring stability and health to the entire farm. Regenerative agriculture is like planting the future in every grain of soil. One of the most evident benefits is increased productivity. Regenerated soils not only yield more, but do so with fewer external inputs. Imagine a farm where the soil is so rich that plants seem to grow with minimal intervention. This is achievable through practices that restore life and fertility to the land, such as composting and using cover crops. Climate resilience is another strength of regenerative farms. In times of prolonged droughts or intense rains, these systems stand out for their adaptability. Farms that incorporate trees like walnut and oak or native grass consortia create microclimates that protect crops and soil. It's like giving your farm an umbrella against extreme weather. And the benefits don't stop in the fields, they reach your wallet. Producing more with less means greater profit, while regenerative practices eliminate the need for many chemical inputs. Moreover, Regeneratively grown products, such as organic fruits or grass-fed meat, are in high demand and can fetch premium prices. It's like aligning what's useful with what's profitable. Environmental health is another fundamental pillar. By returning carbon to the soil, preserving biodiversity, and reducing pollution, these farms leave a positive impact that goes beyond the property. Have you ever thought of a farm that not only feeds your community, but also combats climate change? That's the power of regenerative agriculture in action. The benefits are many and varied, but the most beautiful aspect is how they intertwine, forming a virtuous cycle. Each step toward regeneration enhances the farm's sustainability. And as the results accumulate, it becomes clear that regenerating the soil is just the beginning of a much larger transformation. Regenerating a farm may seem like a monumental task, but the secret lies in starting small. Choose a specific area of the property, such as a degraded patch of soil or a low-productivity section. For instance, you could start by introducing cover crops like rye or clover to revitalize soil fertility. Small steps can lead to significant changes. Monitoring results is essential to understanding the impact of regenerative practices. Take before and after photos, document the return of biodiversity, and track water infiltration in the soil. A simple practice is measuring soil compaction with a basic tool, such as a steel rod. What begins as observation becomes a powerful tool for adjustments and learning. As you observe improvements, adapt and expand practices to other areas of the farm. In a regenerative garden, for example, try crop consortia like tomatoes and basil, which not only grow well together, but also repel pests. As confidence grows, you can introduce agroforests or integrated pasture systems, maximizing land use. A key point is learning from mistakes. Not every practice will work immediately, and that's part of the process. Perhaps the cover crop you chose didn't adapt to the local climate, and that's okay. Try a different species, like oats or millet. Regeneration is a journey of discovery, where each adjustment brings you closer to a productive and balanced system. Finally, share your learnings. Other farmers can benefit from your experience, and in turn, offer insights you might not have considered. Regeneration isn't a solitary endeavor. It's a collaborative journey. And by looking at examples of farms that have already undergone this transformation, you'll find the inspiration needed to keep going. Success stories are always inspiring, especially when they showcase the transformative power of regenerative agriculture. Imagine a farm in Iowa that, a decade ago, was on the brink of bankruptcy due to soil degradation. Today, thanks to the introduction of cover crops like rye and the use of corn and bean consortia, that same land has not only thrived, but also become a model for farmers in the region. Another remarkable example is a small property in Texas that adopted agroforestry systems. The owner planted mesquite and pecans interspersed with native grasses, creating an ecosystem that supports grass-fed meat production and nut harvests. In less than 5 years, the once arid and compacted soil transformed into a fertile environment capable of withstanding drought periods. These examples make it clear that regeneration is possible, regardless of the property's size or location. Every successful farm is not just proof of concept, but an invitation for others to follow the same path. And when we think about the future, it becomes evident that these practices are not only viable, they're essential. The future of agriculture lies in hands that not only cultivate but regenerate. Increasingly, consumers are seeking food that carries stories of respect for nature, and products from regenerative farms meet this demand. Imagine offering vegetables grown in living soils or meats produced on regenerated pastures, connecting the farm to the plate sustainably. The market is thriving, and those who adopt these practices today are already reaping the rewards. Long-term sustainability is another reason these farms are indispensable. While conventional practices deplete the soil, regenerative agriculture enriches it, ensuring productivity for future generations. It's like planting a tree whose fruits will nourish not only your children, but also their grandchildren. The system's longevity is the greatest legacy a farmer can leave. The positive impact extends far beyond a farm's borders. Imagine hundreds of regenerative properties working together to reduce carbon footprints, increase biodiversity, and improve the water cycle. It's a vision of a future where farmland is not just productive, but also a solution to environmental crises. Each regenerative farm is a small piece of a global puzzle. Moreover, these practices offer resilience in the face of climate change. Farms that combine trees like oaks, walnuts, and pines with native grasses are more resistant to droughts and storms. While traditional systems struggle with climate extremes, regenerative ones thrive, proving that regeneration is not just idealism but a practical strategy. Finally, adopting regenerative agriculture is an act of leadership. Every farmer who joins this revolution is helping to rewrite the story of food production. And as you observe the results of these practices, it's hard not to wonder, if the future is regenerative, why not start now? Now that you have the knowledge to transform your farm into a regenerative system, what are you waiting for? Change doesn't happen overnight, but every small action matters. How about starting by identifying an area of your property to implement these practices? Or even experimenting with a simple crop consortium? Ask yourself, what can I do today to create a lasting impact tomorrow? Remember, regenerative agriculture is not just about the soil. It's about creating a legacy, building resilience, and leaving the world better for future generations. Are you ready to take the first step? Share your journey, inspire other farmers, and together, let's create a true regenerative revolution. Oh, and to keep learning how to regenerate your farm and explore even more amazing practices, subscribe to our channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss new content. The future of agriculture starts here with you. Up next, I'll leave a video on how to start agriculture organic farming. See you soon. Let's move towards a bountiful earth.